What is up, everybody? This is the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and this is episode 98. We have another Coffee Talk Friday. So, as I said before, these usually were, or used to be Unapologetic Fridays. But I've changed to Coffee Talk Fridays because it just matches the vibe a little bit better than what the Unapologetic Friday was. So, it's still kind of the same thing, still setting that timer, having a shorter episode, kind of one quick topic, and then Monday's episode is always going to be longer. That being said, as always, this one is unfiltered, unedited, just like the Unapologetic Fridays. So if I get passionate about things, I might start cursing because that's how I start talking when I'm passionate. So if you have kids in the car, that's probably not the best episode. That being said, today's topic, I don't think I'm going to be doing that. So if you're like, oh, should I change it? I don't think. No promises. Just to get things kicked off. Fuck. Okay. So with that being said, let's go. Today's topics with daylight savings hitting the other week. Everyone's kind of feeling the effects. You leave when it's dark to go to work and you get home and it's dark. Literally, I popped upstairs at like 5:20 last night and I was like, what the hell? Okay, so I'm cursing, yeah. I was like, what the hell? It's already dark out. This fucking sucks. I personally really hate daylights. I would rather just like have daylight savings year round and have that extra hour on the back end, but that's me personally. I never realized how polarizing some people's things are when you post something online and people have very strong opinions about it. I was like, I thought everybody would like to not come home in the dark from work, but okay, cool. People are like, no, I guess morning people are like, no, I like it waking up and it's the light out. I'm like, I could give two fucks. But this time of year, along with the holidays and all the holiday food and alcohol and everything else that's about to happen or is already happening by the time you're listening to this episode, there's calories, there's reasons to skip the gym, there's reasons to be less active, and then we're going to top it all off with it's dark out when you get home from work. So are you going out for a walk? It's cold out. So some parts of the country is not super cold yet. It's not super cold here in southeast Pennsylvania yet. However, this weekend we have a low of like 29 one day. So it's like it's getting colder and people a lot of times are less and less motivated to get outside. So you're more likely to stay in. You're more likely to watch a holiday movie versus like go outside and start a bonfire and play with your dog and your kids and get in the garden or go for a walk after dinner. Like after dinner, it's like 7:00. Like it's been dark. And this gets even more challenging after December. So as always, we always want to plan for the future. So right now you can have the excuse of, okay, well, it's dark, but people are putting up lights, which is nice to walk around if you live in a neighborhood. Like you walk around and people have their holiday lights up, Christmas lights, whatever you want to call them. And it's kind of lights things up. But then come January, like all that's taken down and all of a sudden it's really dark. So we always want to plan ahead. And the reason I brought this up is it's even if you're watching your diet, if our activity level tanks, I'm not saying like slightly decreases. I'm talking like you're going from being super active, which is why a lot of times it's easier to lose weight in the summer, to all of a sudden you're getting way fewer steps. Like you went from 10,000 to 5,000. That's a ton of calories you're no longer burning. So it's going to be easier for you to gain weight, or it's going to be easier for you to just not be able to lose. Like you're just maintaining, even though you're like, what the hell? Like I did this back in June and I lost weight effortlessly. Like now it's like staying still. And it's like, yeah, that's your new maintenance. You're burning like 500 less calories per day because you're way less active. So there's a couple things we can talk about today. We're going to start off with motivation and then activity levels, because if I just tell you like get more steps in and you have zero motivation to get steps in, like you're not going to do it. So one thing to get ahead of is the light. Sounds silly, however, as you're listening to this, light is probably entering your eyeballs in some way, somehow, some fashion, unless you're listening to this while taking a nap, in which case I don't know what to tell you. I don't think this is the right podcast for that. But there's some sort of light. So we have light receptors in our eye. We also have light receptors all over our skin as well. You produce vitamin D from UV light. So we'll get to vitamin D in a second. I actually didn't mark that as a note. So one thing is to have access to bright light and trying to get light throughout the day. And this is where like blue light early on is actually beneficial. Blue light late at night, not good. Blue light in the middle of the day when you're supposed to have it will help keep you awake and energized. That's why you don't want it at night. It like energizes you. It shuts down melatonin. But middle of the day when you want that, you want to feel energized, you want to have no melatonin, then that's like, okay, maybe we should have that light. So you can get things. So I really like the company Verilux. There is no promo code. I do not get any kickback. I just really like their products. So I've been using their stuff for a long, long time. They have something called a Happy Light. I literally have it on my face right now. Actually, if you ever watch any of my videos, it's on. I use the light literally every day. It's one of the things that lights up the office. I use it all the time because I'm in the basement. I'm working inside in the basement. And I know for me, I get seasonal affective disorder pretty bad. And if I don't get enough light, which I'm used to, like I went from, I'm outdoorsy, obviously. You probably know that from just the title of the podcast, or if you've been watching my content for a while, listening to podcasts for a while, you already know I'm pretty outdoorsy. So I've always been into the outdoors. And then when I was personal training, I was in a warehouse gym where we basically we would open up as much as we can, get natural light in. And it was essentially like being in the outdoors a lot of times. So I'm used to that. And then it's like when I don't get it, I was like, oh shit. So having something like that, there's also wake up light. So this is also beneficial if you're trying to wake up earlier, because our natural rhythm is to wake up with the sun. And well, this time of year, that just doesn't really work because it's even with daylight savings ending, it's still going to rise pretty late. Like I think it's like 8 o'clock. 7:30, 8 o'clock, something like that towards winter solstice, the shortest day of the year. So for most people, like it's too late for waking up at work. And if you're trying to get a workout early in the day, it's really late. So something you can do is buy a wake up light, and it helps simulate the natural sunrise. And I used one throughout my time personal training. So what was that? Like 10-ish years personal training, close to it. 9 years, 8 years. I think I used it for 8 years. One of these lights, because it would come on about half an hour. The alarm is like whatever your alarm is set for in half an hour earlier. Now it gets really bright, so I would usually set like 15 minutes, and it helps light up the room. So when you wake up, it's not like pitch black. Because for me personally, that's really tough to wake up to. Like it's cold out. You might be tired. You really don't want to go to the gym, or you don't want to go to work. You'd rather just stay in. So to wake up and it's light, it's just that little extra of like, okay, I can see my workout clothes. I can get out of bed and it's fine. Now, will that work for everyone? No. My wife was not the biggest fan of it, but it was a necessity for us. So I would set that alarm and it would go off, and then after I got dressed, it'd be the first thing I turned off. And she kind of just like learned over time to like turn the other way, because it wouldn't get too bright. It would be bright enough that waking up when that alarm went off, it wasn't pitch black, but I didn't have it so it was like super bright. Now, if you both wake up at the same time or you're single, you can definitely just have it be super bright, and it's super helpful. I did that when I was single, until that one actually burnt out eventually, the first one I had. So Happy Light, Wake Up Light. The other one I like, especially for that early morning, and I actually have it on my face again as I'm saying this podcast, is a red light therapy light. So early morning, you would get red light, and actually in the evening as well. So you would get red light at sunrise and sunset. So you can help utilize that to, especially since most of us are not going with the natural rhythm of the sun, we kind of set work hours. It's not sunrise to sunset, which would suck in the summer. It'd be great this time of year, but it would really suck in the summer because those would be some long ass hours. So it helps with our natural function. Andrew Huberman did a really good podcast on red light. I would recommend, if you want to learn more about that, to go over to that podcast he did a while back. Just look up Andrew Huberman red light therapy, and that podcast should pop up for you. That's the podcast that got me into red light therapy, and he's going to be better than, I mean, it's like a 1 hour podcast going over different light therapies. So actually that's a good one. If you're like, definitely me, I need the light's very important, go to his podcast and that will help you with everything. So that was a huge one for me. He explains things way better than I will, and he just has more time. We're almost out of time already today. So that's the first thing, is light. And that's going to help you stay energized and motivated, because it's really hard to like do other stuff when you're not energized and motivated. Now, is this going to be like taking a pre-workout or a shot of espresso? No. But it just helps keep those steady, consistent energy levels like you kind of have in the summer. The other thing is, make sure you're supplementing with vitamin D, even if you're outside. So if you go onto like the Weather Channel app and look at like the UV index, you'll see it's like really low. Like it's very hard for you to get a sunburn this time of year. Well, guess what? That UV light, when you're kind of like getting a tan, is also what produces vitamin D. So it's the UV rays are too low for you to produce vitamin D for most people. So this time of year, you should be supplementing with vitamin D. And if you don't know the benefits of vitamin D, almost every single cell in your body, every single organ system has a receptor for vitamin D. So it affects essentially everything. And if you have low levels and you go to normal levels, so if you already have normal levels, you just want to maintain it. But if you go from low levels to normal, and most people are low, they found you build muscle easier, you burn fat faster, you have better energy levels, better immune system, better overall health, like everything you really want. Like, it's vitamin D. It's dirt cheap. It's super, super easy to just get that. And I'll drop a link to vitamin D down below that you guys can utilize. Some people, so I use a vitamin D and K combo. I don't recommend that for everybody. Please do your research, because vitamin K can interact with some medications. Also, as always, if you can, get blood work done to see what your vitamin D levels are before supplementing, especially with high amounts. But 2,000 to 5,000 IU for most people is safe to take during the winter time. So that's about what I would recommend for the majority of people looking to supplement with vitamin D. And so now we finally, in the last couple minutes, actually get to activity level and staying active. So first of all, we don't want to skip our workouts. We want to try to get workouts in as much as possible. That doesn't mean 6 days a week. It's just staying consistent and maybe even bumping up to an additional day if your schedule allows, and your recovery allows. But at the same time, we want to stay active because we know steps are important. And this is where investing in a treadmill, a walking pad, or something similar is going to be very helpful for getting your steps in. And put that in front of a computer, especially if you have an office area of the house, someplace where you have a TV, because it doesn't need to be like, okay, we're just going to walk and then it's a specific workout. Like, it doesn't need to be hard. We're getting steps in. So it's like, I'm going to watch the show and walk for the duration of the show. It's a 45-minute show. You get 45 minutes of walking. It doesn't need to be fast. It can be 1.5 miles an hour. It doesn't need to be incline. It can be a slight incline, but the point with steps and stuff is not working out. It's to get activity level in. Your joints will feel better. you will feel better. You'll have more energy. You'll be able to maintain your weight easier or be able to lose weight easier during this time of year, which lasts, when daylight savings ends in what? Or standard time. Daylight savings starts in what? March. So we have the holidays, and then we have what I call the cold gray bucket of suck Q1, which is a tough time of year. A great time of year for dieting for me personally because nothing's going on, but your activity level tends to be low because it's cold out. So being active inside. But also, if you can, get outside with the mornings or the evenings, as long as it's safe. Take a light with you. Walk midday. That's what I try to do. I try to walk my dog midday. I know not everyone works from home, but if you work from home, try to take a break midday when the sun would be its brightest, which is going to be somewhere between 11, which is actually when I'm recording this on Thursday, and 1, somewhere around that time would be ideal. But any time is actually good. Get outside, get actual sunlight hitting your eyeballs. Don't look directly in the sun. I have to put that caveat because somebody will be like, well, Chris said. It's one of those things you see online, like get outside, don't look directly at the sun, because someone's going to do the old Donald Trump thing with the eclipse and like try to look directly at it. Like don't look at the sun directly. We just want that light coming into our eyes, which is just walking out the door that happens. So go walk your dog, go for a regular walk, do a walking meeting. At work, maybe it's that. Try to get outside it, and that will help you decompress a little bit, de-stress. At work, if you can, do a walking meeting. If you have to do some sort of education thing, and you can do it not on your computer. So like my wife will have like random like education things she has to do. She has to do them at work. If you can, have a walking pad at work, great. If you can do it standing, great. If you can throw it on the phone or a tablet and walk, great. Go do that. Again, I can't tell you for your specific situation. This is where you need some problem solving. And this is something that has gotten rarer and rarer with social media, is problem solving things. You need to like look at the information that being presented to you and problem solve it to your situation. So many people are like, well, tell me what to do. Like, you need to figure that. One, you either invest in coaching and someone will help you tell what to do. But we don't tell you exactly what to do as coaches. Like, we help you figure out what you need to do and put you on the right path. But you need to problem solve your situation, because my situation will be different than someone who works a corporate job from 9 to 5 versus someone who is traveling all over versus for their job and they work crazy hours versus someone in healthcare versus a stay-at-home mom. Like, we have all those people listening to this podcast. So you have to take this information, utilize what you can, and discard what's not useful. Like, take what you can. I think it's the Bruce Lee quote. Take what is useful, utilize that, and what doesn't apply to you. Like, I can't do red light therapy, then don't. Like, all of this helps. If you can do everything, great, but it's not realistic for everyone. Do what you can. And the last thing is, like, get outside in the cold. So many people, I hated this as a personal trainer, working in a gym where heat was limited and we had no air conditioning. People would come in like, it's hot out. Can you believe how hot it is? It's like, it's the beginning of August in Southeast Pennsylvania. It is hot and humid. It is 98 out and you decided to come to the 3 p.m. class. Yes. Can you not see my shirt is soaked? I got here 20 minutes ago. It is hot. It's been hot for all of July. And then come January, like, oh my God, can you believe how cold it is? It is 5:15 a.m. in the morning in January in Pennsylvania. There is ice on the ground. Yes, it is cold out. Yes, there's limited heat. There's not something that, we hid from you. It's cold. There's limited insulation in this place. There's actually in the one of the garage door when it's snow, like snow would actually come on the inside of the garage door because there's no insulation there. There's like this small little gap. Get used to the weather. Most people live in a very climate controlled environment, but it takes about 2 weeks for your body to start to adapt to changes in the weather, whether that's the heat. And so people would come in like, oh my God, it's so hot. I'm like, I'm fine at like 85 degrees. Like if it was like not super humid and other people, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm like 85, 88. Like it's hot, but it's not terrible, especially since you're inside, not directly hitting the sun. We would adapt as trainers. We would adapt to that weather. And anyone who works outside will adapt to that weather. You have to give it time. Most people will step outside one time and they're like, nope. Same thing with the cold. You will adapt to that weather. Give yourself some time. It takes 2 weeks, not 2 days, not a week. 2 weeks, 14 days for your body to really start adapting to the cold. And so things like for heat, things that the changes are, you get more blood flow to your extremities, more blood flow to closer to the skin to help your body cool off. You start sweating faster. In the winter, you limit blood flow to your extremities, and it focuses more on keeping blood flow around your core to keep your organs warm. So you might notice in the winter, takes a little bit longer for you to start sweating. You might like really start to overheat before you start sweating with your workout. I noticed that last night with my workout. Versus summer, you might do the warm up and you're already like, man, I already have a soaked shirt full of sweat, depending on how you sweat. Because your body's like, okay, we're being active, it's warm out, start sweating right away before we overheat. So these are just adaptations your body does. Now, that being said, I'm not saying you can be in shorts and a t-shirt in 20-degree weather. Also, make sure you invest in decent things to go outside. So one of the big holdups are, I have clothes for outside, but it's inconvenient for me to wear them because it's like a pain. Like snow boots you have to tie up each time you go out can be a real pain in the butt to get outside. You have to put all these different layers. So have things that are quick, easy to throw on, that you can get outside, walk the dog, go for a walk yourself for 10, 15 minutes, come back in. You will feel a lot better, even in January and February. You'll feel a lot better. And if you make it easy, that's great. So a quick pair of sweatpants, a decent jacket. I usually just wear hiking boots, but you can wear, you can buy like some of the insulated muck boots that you just slip on real quick, go for a walk. Of course, this is, being from home generally, but you can do those things. You can wear warm socks, have gloves, have rechargeable hand warmers. You don't want to burn through like the shakeable hand warmers that take time to heat up, but I have hand warmers that are rechargeable, and then outside of the winter, they actually work as power banks, so I can charge my phone with them and stuff. So you can just keep those in your pocket, charge them at the end of the day or every couple of days. Like if they'll blink once they're going down, they warm up pretty good. And so your hands are staying warm, and that's something I do, especially when we're getting down into the teens. But I'm walking my dog outside, and she's fine in the cold. But my hands, after a while, like holding that leash, is really cold. Gloves, hat, things like that, scarf. Just things that are quick. Hat, gloves, scarf with a jacket, and some muck boots, and you're going to be pretty good even if you don't have like the warmest pants ever. Or even if you just throw on like shoes to go walking around, but like hiking shoes and stuff. If you're walking in the snow in tennis shoes, your feet are going to get wet, and that's going to be miserable. Some other things are like having wool. Wool is going to keep you warm. It helps you temperature regulate, but we use it in hunting because it also helps keep the stink away. So you can wear it week in and week out, and it's not going to smell bad. Versus some of the other things, you're like, well, I don't want to wash something all the time. That's where wool can come in. So again, I'm not saying you have to wear wool pants and a wool shirt all the time, but wool gloves, wool hat, wool scarf, It's going to help keep you warm. It's not going to stink. That's going to help you get outside to be active, especially if you can't have a treadmill, you can't have a walking pad. Maybe it's limited space, budget, whatever it is. I get it. So those are a few things you can do. And finally, to wrap up, the other thing is just try to stand more. Wash the dishes. Bake instead of going like whatever sweets and stuff you're going to buy for the week. Try to spend time baking instead. Like, oh, I'm not getting out for a walk. Okay, try to stand and do something. Do like a mini like recovery style workout, like mobility, yoga, things like that. You can watch the TV and kind of do like mobility work on the floor, bear crawl position, hip 90-90s, scorpions, different stretches. Like you can do that. That's going to burn more calories than just sitting there watching TV. You're going to get up and down off the floor. You're going to be moving around. Is it the same as walking? No, but it's better than sitting. And again, this goes back to take what is useful from this podcast, utilize it for your situation, and discard the rest. So to wrap up, figure out how you can figure out the light situation. The more light I personally have, the better I feel, the more energy I have. And then figure out your activity situation. And you're going to be much better off going into this cold, dark time of the year where there's generally lots of calories. And even if it's not holiday season, it's January or February, after a cold day, you probably don't want chicken, broccoli, and rice. You want something hearty. And so a lot of times those calories can sneak in if you were not tracking your macros, or even if you are, you're like, I really just want something different. It'll help you be able to have a little bit more calories with those meals that you really want to maintain your weight or even lose weight. Thanks for tuning in. As always, check out the show notes. I'm going to drop a link for vitamin D down there, and check out the Andrew Huberman podcast on light. If you want more information on that, he's going to give you way more information. And finally, please rate the show. Give the show a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it, and leave a review, as that helps push the show out for other people to find it. And I also review those and look over them because I appreciate your feedback.